Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I know this is not my normal time for streaming, so thank you guys for showing up. I'm here with Fredric, and how do you say your last name? Guimont?
Guimont, yeah. So
Guimont.
most English pronounce it Guimont, and I'm fine with that. That's
Well, I
close
have a
to.
strange last name too, and nobody pronounced it correctly. I just didn't pronounce it fancy enough. I should have realized I'm not a fancy lad. So it's good to see you. Where were
Yeah,
you? I was watching you on somebody else's stream, and you were just talking about stuff, and I was just like, I'd like to talk to this guy. He sound interesting.
yeah. I was on Omer's stream filling in for
That's
his
right.
usual guest, and we were talking, comics and Bitcoin and stuff. And I saw that you were interested in the topic as well, because usually most people in the comic space, they kind of glaze over when you talk Bitcoin, and you can't change the subject fast enough. So
Oh
I'm
no.
happy to talk to someone who's kind of
Well,
open-minded.
we'll get into Bitcoin, but first,
Yep.
since it is a comic book channel, you do have a comic, right?
Yes, well, it's not out yet. Like, I'm in the middle of making it right here. Like, I've got some art. I'm like 20 pages into it, and it's going to come out like towards the end of the summer. I'm going to have like a campaign out for
Oh,
that.
so you don't even have a campaign now. So this is
Not
okay,
yet.
in
Right.
the embryonic stage. Okay.
I'm just getting the word out, trying to get people interested and hyped up before ahead of time, so we have people waiting for the campaign when it comes
So
out.
you're writing and drawing your comic.
That's right. Yeah, for the first, like, I've drawn comics before, not from Marvel or DC, but from smaller self-publishers, and this is the first time that I'm writing. So I'm really thrilled to be
Yeah,
tackling.
I'm an amateur writer too. You know what I mean? I have one comic out. I wouldn't consider myself a writer yet. Maybe someday. But I'm looking at your art. Yeah. So you've been semi-professional or professional. I'm sorry. What did you
Yeah,
say?
that's a semi-professional. Like, I was trying to break in when I was in my 20s, and I came really, really close, but it didn't work out. Like, I had this book published here. There's one called Candy Apple Black. I did 3 issues of that. This was a gentleman in in California who was trying to promote. This is not my cover. I did the interiors for that,
Okay.
but he was trying to get a movie up and running, and he figured, like, well, if I have the comic out, it'll help sell the movie. So he found me on the internet and hired me, and I did 3 issues of that. That didn't work out after that. So I did a comic book adaptation of 1984, and I didn't have any financing for that. Did that by myself, and kind of crashed and burned. It's hard to make comics and make a living at the same time.
Yeah.
So I had to eventually call it quits on trying to make a living out of comics, and then went into the computer programming space and did websites for a longest time. And then Bitcoin came around. I don't want to jump into the topic too
That's
fast,
fine. That's
but
fine. I just
that
want to.
actually changed my life. I was able to get some savings for the first time in my life, and now I'm in a place where I have enough of a cushion that I can get back into comics and not feel stressed out. I can devote time to it, and I was, kind of saw some comics that were kind of getting more and more woke, and I was like, wow, like, I could do better than this. I could do a story that's more interesting than I have here. Like, the one I picked up was, like, I went to a comic shop after a long hiatus, and I was like, wow, James Bond. I love James Bond. This is going to be so cool. Hardcover. This is incredible art in there. And then I read it and I was like, wow, this is trash. This is like a lot of woke stuff in there. Like the
Is that
MI,
the one with the black woman's riding James Bond and he's riding behind him, holding on to her? He's not even driving his own motorcycle.
like in the movie, but in the comic book, they're like, well, MI6 has some cuts, so now we have like cafeteria chairs and all that, and we can't afford like nice furniture anymore. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a spy. Like,
Yeah.
why would they have plastic chairs? This is the most ridiculous thing. So I was like, all right, time to roll your sleeves up and get back into comics. And I was in a better spot, so I was like, okay, I can. I dreamt up a character based off of Bitcoin. Well, I was like totally in the Bitcoin space. I'm like, well, he's going to be like a Batman. Batman has his corporation that he inherited from his parents, Wayne Enterprises. I'm like, what if my character kind of like got a lot of Bitcoin stashed up, went to prison for 10 years, and he comes out and he's loaded, and all his gadgets he buys, off of the black market or something equivalent like that, using the fortune he's accumulated. So he has to stay. No one knows he has a fortune. He's kind of, unassuming, but he's slowly building up his gadgets and trying to he's got a yearning for freedom, whereas he's been locked up for 10 years.
Right.
In prison nowadays, they get contraband in through with drones. Drones will drop in the packages, and then the inmates will go pick it up. And so I figured my character was seeing that happening. He was just dreaming, like, one day, if I had a big enough drone, I could just hop onto it and fly out of here. And he couldn't do that while he was in the inside, but he eventually gets out. And that's the first thing he builds. He builds a drone that he can ride like a skateboard, and he just goes off on a test flight. And then that's the first episode, the first comic.
He's been working out for 10 years too, right? So he's coming out of jail all buff.
Exactly.
He's all buff, and now he's rich, and he's got a thing to prove. Yeah.
Yep. And he also learned all the, trades, all the tricks from the criminals. But he's got, he's not a criminal. Like, he kind of got stuck for like financial crimes related to Bitcoin. So he's not a bad guy, but he did learn all the tricks into how to keep anonymous, how to, a lot of hacking stuff as well. So it's going to be a bit of a cyberpunk mixed in with a superhero thing. Because if it's just cyberpunk, you don't want to see a character like typing away at a keyboard for like 24 pages. That's too boring. So I got to give him a superhero suit and give him some action and some interesting baddies to go along with it.
Cool. So we might as well get into Bitcoin. So you were talking about it on Omar Glitch's channel, and you said a few things that really made me think. The thing that I forgot, was that Wednesday or Tuesday? So
Monday.
It was Monday night. So all Monday, all 5 days of this week, I was thinking, because again, I'm probably going to give out too much information, which I always do, but I have a 401k and it's doing pretty good. But I'm putting a lot of money into it. I'm 57. In 2 years, I could start pulling money out of my 401k. But I also have Bitcoin. Now, unfortunately, I got into a car accident almost a year, like in July 17th, I got so I used a lot of my Bitcoin to pay my bills. So I'm not doing as good as I once was. But to make a long story short, I had a friend that was really into Bitcoin, and he just bugged me. Buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. So I got my tax returns. I had $5,000 extra dollars. I was doing pretty good at the time. So I said, how much can I afford to lose? So to me, I looked at it like gambling because I didn't know anything. So I took 5,000. Now, Bitcoin was just about 6,000. So I had almost a full coin at the time. And then I just told myself, I was watching it every day, watching it go, it would go down, and I was like, you screwed me. You know what I mean? So he just said, forget about it. So I did. And I forgot about it for a couple of years. And I forget the exact, I bought this house 4 years ago. So it went up to 44,000. So my $5,000 investment was now worth $44,000. And I was like, oh my God. And then it started to tank. And I pulled out $29,000 of it. And I fixed, I'm giving so much information out, but I fixed up this basement where I live. This was, when I bought this house, this was a dark, dreary dungeon. And I fixed up the house to make it livable. So my friend gets mad at me, but I said, I can't live in a Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So really, for $5,000, I have this wonderful basement, And ever since then, I've been putting $100 a week away into Bitcoin. Now, it didn't seem to have that meteoric rise that it did, and then it had a catastrophic fall, but it is recovering. So, and then I got into the car accident. I was out of work for 6 months. I had a crowd fund. I had $8,000 sitting in an account that I was like, I can't touch this. But every day, you remember the Little Rascals when kid gets expelled and he just hears that voice, learn that poem. Every day is take that money, pay your bills, take that money. And I was like, I can't do it. So I sold more Bitcoin, and I, paid off my bills because I was out of work for 6 months. So to make a long story even longer, I'm almost back to square one. You know what I mean? But I still do 100. But what you said really has got into my mind, that if I was to just put my money into a bank, if I was just to put $100 a week away, I wouldn't have this basement. I wouldn't have had when I got to the car accident, I would have been screwed. I would probably be filing eviction papers. I would have effed up my crowd fund. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because as much as the Bitcoin went up and fluctuated, I never lost money on it.
Mm-hmm.
But regular cash in the bank, I don't lose the money. It's not like I put $10 in the bank, I go back and now I have $8. But what I could purchase with that money is less and less and less and less and less.
Right.
So
it's like a melting ice cube.
right,
It's more
right,
stable than Bitcoin, but it's like going down a slow hill.
right.
You'll just
I put $10 in the bank. I'm just making them. That $10 will always be there. But that $10, it used to be able to buy me 5 comic books. Now it can only buy me 4 comic books. Then it can only buy me 2 comic books. But I still have $10. But the Bitcoin, I could buy more comics, and more comics over time. So, I was like, I want to talk to you about that. Now forgive me if I'm talking too much. I just drank a couple.
No. I'm getting an idea of what your
So I was
experience is.
talking about it at work with a bunch of guys, and I was just saying, and they all said the same thing to me. Well, what is Bitcoin? And I was like, I have no freaking clue. I don't know what it is. All I know is I got a basement out of it. And now when I got to a car accident, it got me out of being evicted from this house that I love, this basement. I got a comic book room over there. I got a comic book room built. You know what I mean?
I saw that. So you got a lot of long boxes as well.
Yeah, but I still don't know what Bitcoin is. I know it's a computer thing. I know they mine it, but I can't hold it. So
I got into it about 2017. I had the same thing as you. I had an annoying friend who was like, come on, you get into it. Like he had a code. So if I bought $100, we'd each get like $20 bonus on each side. So it was like, come on, get it. And I was like, yeah. Okay, I'll get it. But he kept pushing, and I had just lost my job. Like I was doing like front end development at a website firm, like right down the street here. And I was like, all right, I'll buy $100. I will shut him up and it will be fine. So I bought it. It was in early 2017, and I got in at the best possible time in terms of like price fluctuation, because it was just doing a slow climb throughout the whole year. And what happened was, since I had a lot of free time, I was like on unemployment. I bought a book called Mastering Bitcoin, and I started reading it. And it's very technical, but I was able to understand like maybe 60, 70% of it, right? And I was like, okay, so this is cryptography. It's secure because of the cryptographic signatures. And, you can't fake a Bitcoin. There's a cap of 21 million. So you'll never have any more than that.
It just sounds like D&D rules. You know what I mean? Like the Dungeon Master has decided that there's a cap. The Dungeon Master has decided that you can't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure a guy like you understands why, but a guy like me, I don't understand. And it's so funny. It worked. Like, oh yeah, the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So they all went and they bought like Ethereum and all the other stuff because it's the newer one. So therefore it's going to be worth more.
Well, that's the trap. Yeah. Everyone was looking because it was so volatile that you were able to get bigger gains in the early days of Bitcoin. So everyone was, after that, we're off to find the next Bitcoin.
Right.
Now, the trap is all these other things, they're not, because Bitcoin is kind of a unique thing in where it almost has a virgin birth. So this anonymous guy called Satoshi Nakamoto created it, made the perfect rules that's fair and balanced for everyone. He mined like, I think it was 100,000 or 1 million of his own, and then he disappeared.
But when you say mined, where does it come from? What is it? It's not a diamond, obviously. It's not gold. It's not unobtainium. It's not kryptonite. You know what I mean? Like I still, like
Exactly.
I'm living proof that it worked. But it might as well have been genie wishes. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Okay. So when you mine, so what happens is every 10 minutes is a new block, right? They call it the blockchain because it's lots of blocks that are kind of in a chain. So the way to think of a block is like a page of a ledger, right? So if you look at your bank transactions, all that, it's just like a ledger. You transferred this amount to this address, this amount to this address. So it's just a list. So every 10 minutes, a ledger gets added to the blockchain. Now, the thing is, because Bitcoin, it has one of the most important aspects of it, it's the decentralization of it. Now, what that means is there's no one central person or computer that's in charge. And if there's no one central person, then how does it work? So you have a bunch of people who had computers in their homes, and they were competing to add the next page of ledger. So everyone who had transactions, you send out your transactions. Okay, I want to send John 1 Bitcoin. So I send out my transaction. It's called unconfirmed. It's out there. It's just an intent, right? So everyone is competing to do the next page of ledger, the next block. So they're like, okay, I'm going to take all these transactions. So here's Fredric's transaction to John. I put it, and then they have to do what's called uh, a problem solving called proof of work. So basically, what you have to do is some sort of computational operation. I won't go into the whole details of it, but whichever computer gets it first is rewarded the block. Now, so your computer, and it's almost random because you have to get a certain number of zeros to win it. So it's almost random. If you have more computing power, it's like having more lottery tickets, but it's still a random chance. So poof, my computer happened to be the luckiest or the fastest, and it gets the transaction. I get the block, and every block, so every 10 minutes, you also get a reward. So this is just programmed into it. And the first 4 years, the reward was 50 Bitcoin. So if we were like from 2009 to 2013, that block would be 50. After that, it dropped down to 25. Then it dropped down to 12.5, 6.125. Now we're at 3.12, whatever, like 3 point something. So if you get the block, you get the reward. So 3 Bitcoin right now is like $330,000. It's a lot of money. So whoever wins that block gets that reward. So that's how you mine Bitcoin, is you are lucky enough to have your page of ledger being selected first, added to the rest of the ledger. So you're the one that's contributing to the security of the Bitcoin. Now, why is it so complicated? It's complicated because it's secure. So every block is signed to the previous block, to the previous block. So if you wanted to say you're like some super powered villain,
like I pretend that I understand this, but
well, you can ask me some questions after that. Let me just finish the point here.
Dave is a great, he's
it is a bit complicated. I'll grant you that. It's not easy to understand. But the thing is, if you were a supervillain, had a supercomputer, and wanted to make a fake Bitcoin, you could only win maybe the second one, the next one in line, and then people would spot you out. And you'd have to fake everyone from the beginning. So because they're all in a chain, they're all signed cryptographically, that's what gives the security of the system. Now, you pair the security with the fact that there's only 21 million, and that makes it the most secure money in the world. Now, you're right. It's complicated. It's hard to understand. That's why only geeks got it at first. Like it was only like computer geeks.
Me, everybody says, what would you do if you had a time machine? I would go back and give myself a note, buy Bitcoin,
Right, exactly. And the fact that these rules are in place and they're enforced in a decentralized way, like you can't shut down Bitcoin, right? You'd have to shut down the internet in every country all over the world at the same time. Because as long as
if you shut down America, all you're doing is blocking America from getting it.
That's the only thing. Exactly.
Right. So you wouldn't want to do it then. You wouldn't want to block out America. Okay, that makes sense at least.
Bitcoin works well when it's legal, and it thrives even more when it's illegal, because China did outlaw Bitcoin for a while. The price crashed. All the miners moved to another country or a neighboring country. And all they did is they drove it underground. They moved it another country, and then the price went back up like a month or two later.
I wonder if that's when because like I said, it was up to $44,000 a coin, and then it crashed down to 29,000, and that's what I thought I was going to lose it all. So that's when I pulled my money out.
Yep, that's a common.
Of course, it went back up again, but I got a place to live in, so can't live in.
Exactly. I mean, some people will say never sell your Bitcoin, but most people who got a balanced view of it, they say only sell it for life-changing things. So like your basement, your house, it changed your life.
This is my first house, and I love this house, and again, I'm giving out too much information. I've been living in this house for 4 years. With all the repairs that I've done, I could double my money. You know what I mean? And where I'm thinking of moving, I could pay off a house and then put $200,000 into Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to build this comic book. I was like, okay, this is something it's hard for people to capture. Most people don't even want to talk about it. Most people are like, well, this is a scam. Let's just change topic because I don't want to get into the scam. I already made my mind up, and it's kind of
it's been
unfortunate.
around long enough now that anybody who still thinks it's a scam is they want to think it's a scam. You know what I mean? Like now I can, like me, I got involved with it. I profited off it. I did a pretty good job. I don't shout its praises from the world because the next thing is people ask me what it is, and that's where I draw a blank. You know, if it's pixie dust.
I went down the rabbit hole.
Throws confetti in your face, and you turn it into money. You know,
I went completely down the rabbit hole. I went and understood it as much as I could. Like I have a very good grasp of it. I know people who understand it better than I do, but I know all the parts. I can explain it, especially it's hard to explain in 1 hour quickly, rushed like that. But the gist of it, and that's kind of why I wanted to build a comic book around it. I wanted to show people how it could work because one of the things is
okay. So your character. First off, what's your character's name?
Rattel. So
Rattel.
I'll explain Rattel for a second. So Rattel is a French word that means honey badger. Honey badger is an animal from Africa that don't give an F, right? Like he'll attack a lion, he'll get bitten by a cobra and just take a nap, and he'll wake up, it'll be fine. So it's the mascot animal for Bitcoin.
Oh.
And at the same time, my story takes place in Montreal, so it's kind of a French francophone setting. So I was like, okay, instead of calling him the honey badger, which is a very common term now, because you
I had one of my players in my role-playing game, she joined us and she made a character called Honey Badger, and then Marvel made one, and I'm making a comic about that group, and I'm like, I can't use the name Honey, and she's like, that's my character, that's my group.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I did buy honeybadgercomic.com, but it's not pointing to anything. But if I use the French word Rattel,
that's perfect.
It's small. It's easy to say. You could say it in English, and it kind of gives a little bit more into the character who's from Quebec. Like he's in Montreal.
Is that where you are? You're in Montreal?
I used to live in Montreal. I'm in the Quebec City region, so like 3-hour drive from Montreal. I lived in Montreal for about 8 years. It's a beautiful city.
Beautiful city. I will say it's the most beautiful girls in the world.
They're French, so you know.
We would joke, and me and my friends would drive it out of Montreal, and I needed to stop at a gas station. There was a Shell gas station. And as a joke, I said, watch when I pull in. I said, a beautiful blonde is going to come out and pump our gas. I just said it like everywhere. This beautiful, like a jaw-dropping blonde came out and was like, hi, pump your gas. And they were all like, have you been here? I was like, no, but just Montreal has the most beautiful women in the world.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Francophone genes, like from France. I mean, this is the French part of Canada. So the French came here as well as the English. The English kind of got the western part of Canada. The French were even eventually conquered by the English, but we kept our culture, we kept our language. So even though we pay taxes to Ottawa, we're still kind of maintaining our own culture here. So
what I don't know. Is a bar called the Peel Pub still there?
Yeah, I haven't been there like in a long time, but I think is that near Crescent, because I have a scene in my comic that takes place.
I forget exactly where it was, but we walked in there, and it's, if anybody's ever been there, it's huge. It's like a beer hall, like it's like a German beer hall. And I didn't know, but there's an imaginary line down the middle. If you speak English, you sit on the right. If you speak French, you sit on the left. And me and my New York English speaking buddies, we sat in the French area, and these stereotypical lumberjack looking guys came up and like were talking French to us, and we were like, and you could see their face because we like pushed out chairs and invited them to sit down, and they were like, they thought that we sat there to start a fight with the French speakers. You know what I mean? They realized we were just dumb kids from New York, and they sat down. I was like, I'm pouring them beer, you know, we're half drunk, and they're going, I said, we're from New York. And they're like, why aren't you speaking French? I said, I don't know French. I'm from New York. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, do you think it's right that we can't put French? I said, listen, man, go to New York and Chinatown. They have signs in Chinese. Nobody cares. You know, and it's funny because now we're all singing, and, you know, but it was just funny that our pure ignorance saved us from getting our faces smashed, because there's no way we would have won against these guys. They were huge. And I just remember we were drunk by the end of the night, and I just said to him, his name was Pierre, believe it or not. I go, Pierre, am I drunk, or is every girl in Montreal beautiful? He goes, John, you're drunk, and every girl in Montreal is beautiful.
Both can be true at the
Both
same
can be
time.
true. So
Yeah.
there's my Montreal story.
Yeah. I mean, the whole city's kind of divided in the St. Lawrence
Right,
Street. It's like the east side is Francophone and the west side is all Anglophone. Yeah.
right.
And you
And
go
then,
to Chinatown as well.
this was 89. So I was 18 at the time, because we wanted to go someplace where we could drink at 18, So
Yep. We have people from Ontario all the time who'd come down to Quebec because you could drink at 18 and in Ontario it's 21. So the kids, they all drive down in the bus 18 and they're drinking for the first time. They all get drunk. They puke in the street. They start
Right.
fights with the French Francophone people. And it was just a classic stereotype,
Yeah,
You see that all the time.
I didn't realize how close we were to get destroyed. In the comic, Bitcoin is named the supervillain who has the power to make people nod along as he speaks riddles and promises riches. Yeah.
So close. The villain is called actually Bankman, because basically represents the old financial system that's kind of using the usury to make everyone poor and all that. So I kind of put these ideas and make them into comic book form. And places worse than California. Yeah, it's you're not wrong, man. It's true. It's very liberal here. Unfortunately, there's the propaganda worked really well, especially when people here don't speak English. It's hard to get the other side of the story. So unfortunately, I can't disagree with you. Hey, Otter, how's it going? Otter's a good friend. Otter was one of the beta readers for my comic as well. He helped.
Okay, welcome. I've never seen the name before. Love otters, so It's nice to see you.
He's a writer, a fantasy writer in his own right. Same with Wrangler. Wrangler is also a fantasy writer. They're both friends of mine. And helped me do some beta reading because since I'm a first-time writer. Like I do my homework. I read a lot of books, how to write. I watched a ton of videos, based a lot of it off of screenwriting. But
my weekly purchase of Bitcoin just went through as we were talking.
There you go. That's a sign. And despite having done all my homework and writing, I don't have my 10,000 hours experience. So
right.
I put the book in my friends' hands, and they were able to point out all the problems.
As a first-time writer myself, get people to read it. I know when people give you criticism, it hurts your soul because that means they hate you. But you got to get over that. You know what I mean? Like I had friends that read my script and they were like, "This is awful." And I was like, "You don't understand my genius." And then a couple of days later, I realized, okay, what should I do? And then I did not hire a professional editor for my first issue. And there's things that now that I look back at, now that my emotion is away, that I would have done better. So learn from my idiotic mistakes, and I'll make them all, and I'll invent new mistakes in my second issue, guys. I'm trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 days is exactly what I got. I got 48 hours. Like the first time when people give you comments, you're like, "You're an idiot. How can you not see my genius where I'm going with this? You're a moron." And then the second day, it's like
smart.
Second day, it's like, okay, well, maybe from his point of view, in his, misunderstood, he might have seen some things that maybe I could look at. And then after a couple of days go by, you're like, maybe I was the idiot. Right. Maybe he's got a point. Maybe I can fix it.
Yeah, and you got to get over your ego.
Yeah, so true.
It's rough, and I bit my teeth. And you also have to understand some people's criticism is worthless. Like I had a friend, or I still have a friend. She's a psychologist. She doesn't read comic books. So I was like, this will be completely different criticism. And basically, my comic book wasn't like a PhD dissertation on, the brothers, whatever,
Dostoevsky,
you know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, she doesn't get superhero punches bad guy in the face. You know what I mean? So I was like, thank you.
Yeah. You have to have a certain understanding of the genre and everything. Like I got some bad advice as well. Like at first somebody was like, "Yeah, I don't think you should talk about Bitcoin. You should talk about Ripple. It's the new coin. It's better." I was like, okay, no, this guy doesn't get it.
That's true. And that's another thing is your editor changing what you want?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I got some good feedback from multiple sources, and you can see some things pop up from different sources. So you're like, okay, this is.
So you're writing it, you're drawing it. And you said you had somebody else coloring it,
right? So I tried coloring it at first. If you go on the site, you see most of the colors. If you scroll down, are myself. And turns out I'm not a good colorist, and I'm very slow at it, which was a bad mix. And I found I would go on Twitter, and every time I would see either whatever kind of artist, I always took notes like, okay, this guy's an inker, this guy's a colorist. I would just note them down. Eventually, it's good to have a Rolodex of talent, right? And then same thing with the colorist. I was like, okay, eventually I'll hire a colorist. And then I stumble onto this colorist called Ross the Red on Twitter. Ross Kemble is his name. And I was like, okay, this guy's good. I'm going to note down. I look at his profile. It says Sound Money Node Runner, which are Bitcoin keywords. Node Runner. Node is a Bitcoin computer that verifies the transactions. So I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. This guy knows what he's talking about.
This guy is a soul brother. Yeah.
Yeah. So I double check all his color work. I'm like, this guy's really good. So I write him, hey, do you take commissions? Are you willing to take on a project? And he's like, well, if the project's good enough. So I tell him about it. I'm like, well, it's a Bitcoin superhero. He's the art. He's like, right on. I'm down for it. Sign me up. And I pay him in Bitcoin and everything. So it's like he understands the project. It fits the whole philosophy of it.
Oh,
and he's really talented as well. So I'm like, big winner. And let me show you a print I did. So this is a take on Akira poster, right? But this is a Rattel. So this is all colored by Ross Campbell, drawn by myself. And see, Bitcoin has in the original Akira, you have a red and white pill because they kind of take drugs in that movie, amphetamines. But the orange pill is like kind of the red pill for Bitcoin. Basically, once you've taken the orange pill,
it that's means the metaphor. Okay.
Yeah, you sort of understand Bitcoin. It means you've gone down the rabbit hole. You did your homework, and now you understand.
I think I got the orange pill in my mouth. I didn't swallow it.
Yeah, you gotta chew it and swallow it.
Yeah, Dave Brink. Dave Brink makes his own comics. I keep saying Dave Brink, but Genuine Comics. If he says good art, he's a guy you can listen to. He has wonderful comics. He has my favorite superhero comics that are coming out now. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I follow his channel as well.
You know him.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's the only one who's got my name right, pronunciation, my last name right the first time. It was like, okay, that's good.
Well, that's because you're both dirty foreigners, right?
Exactly.
If you ain't American, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, I'm North American, and
right. We're notoriously. I mean, in our defense, our country's huge, and our states are bigger than some countries. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could go to other states, and it's.
Yeah, I mean, the whole of Canada is less population than one of your states. So,
right. And my wife is from Canada. My wife is from Winnipeg.
Okay,
so we go to Canada. I've been to Montreal. I've been to Vancouver. I've been to Toronto. And I loved all three of them. I haven't been to Winnipeg. What am I lying to you for? I haven't been to Winnipeg yet. That's where we're planning to go to next. But Vancouver is probably the most beautiful place on earth that I've been to.
Dude, you got to take some Bitcoin if you go to Vancouver. There's an area of the city that is like the adoption of Bitcoin is through the roof. You could go into businesses and buy stuff straight up with Bitcoin. So that's pretty impressive.
I've never bought anything with Bitcoin. I always convert it to cash. And then, so I what do? You walk in with your phone and,
Yep, exactly. So there's two kinds of Bitcoin. There's the on-chain that I was telling you about that's, got a block every 10 minutes. And then there's another layer on top of it that they built that's called Lightning, which is faster than credit card transactions. And the beauty of it is as soon as you just scan a QR code, it gets sent instantly. And as soon as you get it, you can spend it. So whereas if you take money from a credit card, it takes like 1 to 3 months for it to like totally validate, and the person can cancel it and you can get surprises. But Lightning Bitcoin is instant. So as soon as I send it to you, you can go out, turn around and spend it that very second.
Wow.
So this is going to revolutionize the financial system.
The woman that I was talking to earlier who had the character of Honey Badger, I remember the first time we're all getting pizza, and we're all older guys. She's like a 30-year-old woman, and we're all like taking out money to get pizza, and she pulls out her phone. She's like, "What about Venmo?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" So we had to give her the cash, and she did the Venmo because she's like, nobody carries cash anymore. And I just remember I got scared of Venmo. I'm still scared of Venmo. I'm like, I type in your phone number and it gets to you and it's instant. What if I type in the wrong number? So what you just said gave me nerves. It made me nervous. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. Like it's the same for everybody, by the way. You're not special in that aspect.
Right. I'm not special. My mom says I'm special.
I'm sure she does. And I've been to tons of conferences. Everybody just pays in Bitcoin, and it's once you get past it, because the first transaction will make you sweat, especially if it's a big amount. And then the first time you try Lightning, it's a different system. So you're like, okay, oh, is it working? Okay, I see it's spinning. Okay, it worked.
What
Wow.
happens
Okay,
if you
that's
make a
great.
mistake, or is it like foolproof?
I've never made a mistake. I've never ever made a mistake. You got to just take your time to understand what the process is for the first time. But once you understand it, it becomes, it's the easiest thing. It's like when you go to conferences, people just pay in Bitcoin and everyone just absolutely loves it. Like we love buying stuff from each other. It is absolutely a revolution in the financial system. And
Do you think it could be a worldwide currency?
oh, I know it is. It already is. Like Trump is installing the SBF, like the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. He's going to start piling it up in the states. This individual states are starting to do it as well. Texas is a huge state for mining. You got huge mining farms down there. The United States is the leading country. There's other countries. There's some countries in the Philippines that are big on it. El Salvador was the first one to adopt it as the official currency. So
Really?
it's the official, and I went down to El Salvador at a conference. I expoed 2 pages of the comic last November down there. So it's a great experience going down there to visit. Now, everyone has not adopted it. It's just official with the government and everything, but it's still just a select few. But like if you go to the big chains, like if you go to McDonald's, if you go to Wendy's, they have a Wendy's down there, believe it or not. You could pay in Bitcoin because these are huge corporations and they have to take the official money of the country, which is Bitcoin. So it was a fantastic experience.
Is this an inside joke that I don't know anything about?
I posted a photo of my setup right on Twitter right before. So I'm talking to you through my laptop, and to get it all the way up, I had to take down my Conan collection. So you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Sometimes I get nervous.
13 volumes of Conan underneath my laptop to prop it up. I took a picture. You could have a look at it on Twitter later tonight.
Like sometimes I'll bring up a comment not realizing that person doesn't like my guest and it's an insult, and then I get embarrassed.
Oh, I don't mind. Like, yeah, even if you start insulting me, I'm a Bitcoiner. I don't give a F.
I don't want.
I could take it.
What would you advise people who are curious to maybe try Bitcoin? Good question. Good question.
Start to learn about it. Just learn about it, or if you want to go buy just an amount that makes you comfortable. Like
where do you go buy it for a normie? You don't just walk into 7-Eleven and buy Bitcoin?
Well, I don't know which exchange to recommend to you in the United States. Like I'm a bull Bitcoin guy here in Canada. They just opened up in France and Mexico, but they don't have an affiliate in the US at the same time. They're Bitcoin only. So you could go to Coinbase. I don't recommend Coinbase because it's got all the other shit coins, excuse my language. But so stay away from the casino, but you can actually buy Bitcoin on there. There's Swan Bitcoin, I think is a good one. So start by learning, start by studying. I think if I could get one idea into your brains tonight is that Bitcoin is something that's worth learning about. As soon as you understand that, I think you're on the right path because
like I said, I'm a moron, ladies and gentlemen. I'm flattering myself thinking that there's ladies watching this, but I'm a moron, gentlemen, and I'm living in my Bitcoin right now. You know what I mean? A friend of mine, I used Coinbase because it was easy. That's what my friend recommended. I didn't know there was other things.
I started there as well, but
I don't buy the other ones because I have been paying attention. Believe it or not, once you accumulate some money, you start paying attention.
Yep.
And I started noticing that the other ones, they go up, they go down, they fluctuate. But yes, Bitcoin always seems to rise, and it has drops. But if you don't, like I was panicking and getting ready to sell it, and, you know what I mean, and freaking out. But overall,
Bitcoin, it has a 4-year cycle. So remember when I was telling you in the early days, the reward was 50 and then it moved down to 25 and then 12.5. So the amount of Bitcoin is reduced. The price goes up. So the price actually is going up, but the amount of reward every block goes down. This is on a 4-year basis. So every 4 year, I think it's 120,000 blocks. That's when you have something called the halving. So it just changes the amount of reward that goes down by half. So we're at 3.125 right now. That's eventually going to go down to 1.5 in about 3 years. because we had a halving back in April of
It's
last year.
having it sounds like a bunch of nerds are gonna get like together, sharpen their pencils, and stab each other. The last one wins the Bitcoin.
Oh, dude, we have parties. All the Bitcoiners get together. We look at the block on the screen, and then we have beers, and then we're like,
I
"Wow!"
do know that they have the Domino's Pizza Day.
Yeah. So the pizza day, that was a few weeks ago or a month back. I forget the date exactly. So the pizza day kind of celebrates the first sale of Bitcoin. So this one guy, he was like, he had his two sons, and they had nothing to eat. So it was like, okay, I need to buy a couple of pizzas. And he's like, I have 10,000 Bitcoin. Bitcoin's worth nothing. So he just sent out a message like, hey, does anyone want like to buy me a couple of pizzas for my 10,000 Bitcoin? And someone took him up on the offers, like, yeah, just send me the 10,000 Bitcoin. I'll order two pizzas for you guys. I don't know if it's Domino's or what. So he just paid with his credit card. The pizza delivery guy sent two pizzas to his house. Him and his kids were able to eat pizza. And that one dude got 10,000 Bitcoin.
Geez, I wonder how much that's worth now.
Oh, you don't want to know. It's
I do know the guy who talked me into buying Bitcoin, his buddy, he just he was a real nerdy guy, and I never met the buddy, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to repeat a gossip story. But his buddy is a real big fat shut-in, like just like a disgusting human being. And he fell down someplace and he sued, and he got $7,500 or something like that. And he took $5,000 and he bought Bitcoin. But this was at the infancy. And now, the last I heard, this guy pulls out like $50,000 whenever he needs money. And he just, he's just gotten huger and bigger, but he has like infinite cash because he put $5,000 in the way dark back times,
Yeah. Bitcoin is a superpower. I mean, that's why I put it into the comic. That for me, it made sense. Like when I decided to make a comic,
people talk about Batman's super legit. His main superpower is his wealth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Same with Rattel. He's got an amount of wealth, but he's also, out of prison. He's got to keep up his identity and all that. Like he's got to justify where his money's coming from. You can't say these, he can't reveal all that as well.
And yeah. I do it hurt. If I may push my next campaign is going to be Patriarch number 1, the origin of the Patriarch. Patriarch number 2 is going to talk about his family life. Patriarch number 3 is going to talk about gold and economics in the United States in a superhero way. So this was before I even met you. These stories been planned out for years. So, so I'm being cryptic because Marcus yells at me because I always spoil my stories. But this reminded me of Patriarch number 3. So guys, back my comics. We could get to Patriarch number 3.
Yeah. And when I do launch the campaign, I'll have my campaign on Fund My Comics, of course. And I'm also going to have it on Geyser, which is a Bitcoin crowdfunding. So all the Bitcoiners are going to be able to go get their comic through Bitcoin. And there's going to be some Bitcoin exclusive that you can only get if you purchase it with Bitcoin. So I'm going to be maybe a first in the space to do that. Introduce Bitcoin to the
man, I'm rooting for you.
That's
great. That is awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing the Geyser, a person from Geyser, like I think next month. I'm just scheduling the meeting with him. I'm going to do a one-on-one interview, try to introduce him to what us indie comics guys need from a crowdfunding, and to tell him like, okay, what don't we like about Indiegogo, Kickstarter? What do we like about Fund My Comics and all that? And try to understand what he's offering as well from the Bitcoin perspective. So that's I'll let you know when that show comes out. It should be an interesting interview.
Yeah. I think that's great that you're going to be the first person to do that. They always say like it's the first person or the best person, so maybe you'll be both. So good for you. You still live in Canada now? You said, right?
Yep, I'm in the Quebec City, Quebec. So that's like New York. There's Montreal, but there's Quebec is a province, but there's also Quebec City, which is actually the capital.
Quebec City, yeah.
Yeah. No, some people doesn't register. I tell them 20 times. They're like, Montreal? No. There's actually a city that has the same name as the province. It's called Quebec. It's the oldest fortified city in America. So we have like old buildings, old fortified stone wall with towers, and it looks like France. It's very beautiful. A lot of tourists come down here.
Yeah, I was, believe it or not, we went to Montreal during Christmas break, and it was cold, and they had the festival of the ice, and I mean, it was just frozen, and you know they're used to the cold over there, so people out in the streets, and it was all colorful. I guess because I also went to Iceland in during Christmas time too. I don't know, me and my wife, we travel in the cold times, and it seems like these places that get darker earlier, they really overcompensate with the lights, and it was just beautiful in both of them. I know I'm babbling now.
Oh, it's beautiful. We have a festival here in Quebec where we build an ice castle as well. Like it's all ice. It's a temporary castle that they built to celebrate the carnival once a year. So it's a fantastic sight to see as well.
Yeah, we might be nice people, all dirty, but it doesn't change the fact that we're still shut-ins. I wish I could afford to be a shut-in. I have to go outside and work every day, like the Alamo of the North.
Yeah, a little bit. It's for our culture, our culture. I mean, we're part of Canada. We have to pay taxes to Ottawa, but we kept our language. We kept our culture. We have our own shows and radios and all that. So it's kind of unique. We're more defensive about the language than France is, because France has never been dominated. So they love to use English words, and like half of my bande dessinée that have English titles because they think it's fancy. But here in Quebec, since we're under English domination, we kind of fight back, and we have laws to protect the language. You're not allowed to have a company that's called an English name, and we have to protect French actively because it would be so easy for us to be dominated by the
You,
English.
you could speak both languages, then, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. My French is my first language, and I learned English at a young age. Like I went to third grade, and my mom tells me that I'm the one who asked to go to English school because I was watching my parents watch MASH in the evening, and they laughed, and I couldn't understand what the show was. So it's like, I want to go to English school. I want to learn English, but I go down there to English school. I don't understand anything. So the only way I can communicate with my teacher is through drawings. So he has to do journals in the morning, so I would just draw stuff and I'd
Oh,
communicate with the teacher. That's kind of what got me started in drawing in a way, a little bit.
are you like formally trained now in drawing?
It's mostly, yeah, I did take a lot of classes. To tell you the truth, I learned a way more by myself with books and practice. I'm just like, I'm very disciplined. I really love comics, really love to draw. So I would spend, and I have very little friends. So that's a good mixture. And so I would dive into the comics. I would dive into the books. I practiced drawing arms for 2 weeks, legs for 2 weeks, torsos for 2 weeks. So I was very disciplined and took a lot of time. Like even like during school, like on the noon hours, like my friends would, I didn't have friends, but the other kids would go smoke down in the smoking room, which they had back in the time. And I would just go to the library, read all the bande dessinée, and copy the anatomy drawings from the encyclopedias. And that's what was a good time for me at lunch. I would just dive into that. So I was just absolutely enamored with comics and bande dessinée since I was a kid, and very disciplined at it. My mom did send me to art school on Saturdays. I did eventually go to I was accepted at the Joe Kubert School. Like they told me I was like one of the top 3 students, but it was way too expensive to send like me to New Jersey. Like my parents didn't have funds, and here in Quebec, everything's paid for by the government. So I went to like communist art school instead, which was kind of half and half. So we had some good art classes, good color theory, good live drawing classes, and then we had a bunch of weird stuff that's kind of modern artsy as well that wasn't too my thing, but that did help a lot. I got really close to breaking into my 20s, but like I said, life had different ideas, and I mean, now that I've got a second chance at bat, and I'm thrilled to be doing this at this point in my life.
I wanted to say 2 things. Like, first, you said you were into comics, you didn't have a lot of friends. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying that's one of the things about comics. It's a solo activity.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people, a lot of people, like, before we go live, I'm so nervous, I'm not good at this and whatever. And then again, I get to pat myself in the back, saying, people are like, oh, you're so good at this. I'm like, but I think I'm just the rare person that I like to talk to people. I've always been kind of a extroverted person, but at the same time, I love to be by myself and read all my comics. But out of all my comic book friends, they were all like they read the comics, stuff like that. But then I also joined the football team, and then you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
it's a pretty common story that like
in my 20s, I broke out of my shell and actively fixed my lack of social skills.
right. You have to
Yeah.
in a way.
So I got good at making friends in my 20s and was very social, and I wasn't doing comics back in that period as well. So I got, I had an interesting life during that period, even though I wasn't making comics. So now I'm 49 now, just turned 49. So I still have my drawing skills, but now I have life experience as well, which I think is going to be an interesting thing to add into my stories. It's going to be easier to weave. I have something to say, which I didn't have in my 20s.
Yeah. And Wrangler says this: language and culture are directly connected. If language is lost, then the descendants lose the culture, which is one of the reasons why, if this, apropos of nothing, but this, I'm so opposed to all of this woke political nonsense where we have to change what we say and speak. The other day at work, I'm a construction worker, and I just said, "Oh man, it was about myself. I said I got to cut down on the bacon, egg, and cheese. I'm getting too fat." And there's one female foreman who goes, "We don't say fat." And I got livid. Like, I can say whatever I want. You know what I mean? It's still theoretically a free country. And and not for nothing, she's like the most politically correct person on the planet that like everybody's afraid of. And I just said to her, "Can I say corpulent? Is that allowed?" You know, I didn't know what else to say, but sometimes, you know, that Chappelle skit when they say keeping it real goes wrong. I was this close to losing my job, and I was just
It's a real thing. They're taking over the language, and that's how you control people. If you can control what they say, you can control what they think.
right.
And,
Like that's so Orwellian. Like we don't say fat. You know.
Yep. I mean, that's why I did 3 chapters of 1984, just because I was like shocked at the way the world was going. I was like, I gotta get this story out. And so I totally get it.
He says, "I went to the Cuban school. You didn't miss anything."
Thank
Tech
God it.
viewers held to Frattel rules. That's cool. That's cool.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I really, really resent when people tell me what I can and can't say. And I have like a zero tolerance policy. Like well, we say birthing person. No, we don't. I say mother.
Yeah.
You know, just things like that. Like
and that's what I love about self-publishing. That's why I didn't even think of having somebody else publish it, because nobody's going to understand where I'm coming from with Bitcoin. And I don't want them to start telling me, well, we got sensitivity readers that are going to come in, and none of that.
A sensitivity reader to me is a high priest.
Yeah.
It's no different than getting the rabbi to come over, and I'm like a rabbi's going to do a sign of the cross, but you know what I'm talking about. You're going to get the blessing from the religious figure to go ahead. That's absolutely
my book may not be perfect, but I know where I'm going. I know what the intent is, and I'm going to exactly. I'm going to stay true to the idea, because I have something to say, and I'm going to say it.
The only thing, and again, take it with a grain, it's just make sure it's not just like a educational comic.
Oh, it's not. It's not. Yeah. It's not a comic book about Bitcoin, just like Batman is not about corporate structures, right?
Or Batman is about how capitalism causes the downfall of society, and if Batman just stopped punching people and gave all his wealth to the poor people, there'd be no crime.
Yeah, no, it's about a man who lost his mother when he was young. He grew up with his father, who had to work hard to keep money on the table, food on the table, and all that. And he went to jail because of a mix-up with financial crimes and Bitcoin and mismanagement. And he's just yearning for freedom. And it's a story about a man. Bitcoin is just the tool that he uses. It's like his superpower. Well, so
this is a unique story. And, I hate to say educational, because that's always like, whenever you think of educational comics, you think of like, oh, now that's why we brush our teeth so we don't get cavities.
It's a fun story, and you may accidentally learn something.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah. What is it? Don't get me started on guys who say cyberpunk is a setting for people who hate capitalism. It's funny because I don't like I don't like anything with punk. Steampunk, cyberpunk, what's the it's like if you like it too, don't get mad at, well, you can get mad at me. I can't.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin comes from subgenre, a real thing in life. Is cyberpunk is a fictional genre, but Bitcoin comes from cypherpunks, cipher from cryptography. That's a real thing in real life. Like it's from a mailing list. And that's where they started. So
I'm getting Lord Otter upset. I guess I said
he's a great guy. I love Lord.
Yeah,
Otter.
my problem with cyberpunk and steampunk is it's a prepackaged genre.
Yeah, and that's not what that's not what my comic is.
Yeah,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, if so okay, so I gotta hit these bells and whistles to make. And issue 4 of Heroic Tales has cyberpunk-ish qualities, but it's my own spin on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, mine is a superhero tale with little elements of hackers throughout the story. So that's what you're going to get.
You're right. EC Comics is educational comics. You started out, and then it got into people's eyes getting ripped out and beheaded and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So anything you want to say? We've been talking for just under an hour, and I talk too much, so I always try to let the guest say.
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's the first time I get to talk comics and Bitcoin in one space, so it's a thrill to be on. And because I remember when you started out your show, you said, I'm open to having anybody on talk comics. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to come on. And then I was like, oh, I don't have a microphone. Oh, my comic's not ready. So I was like, I'm eventually going to be on John's channel and talk to him, and it's going to be cool. And I'm glad to finally that this day is the day.
Well, thank you for being for watching for a long time. It's fun talking to people. And, just the other day we talked about Judas from the New Testament. You know what I mean? So it's fun to branch out. Like, I want to be a comic book show. I talk about board games once in a while. Like I had the Harmony Ginger on. We talked board games. So I will stray from because life is not just one topic. So it's fun to talk about other stuff. So I do appreciate that. Something that really did help me out. Bitcoin did help me out. Like my life would be vastly different if not for Bitcoin. In all seriousness, Daniel taught me doing something that I really. Maybe I'm a sucker. That shows you how easy you can talk me into something. John, we should have done heroin.
No, because you didn't get talked into shit coins. You were able to stay in the right lane. So
yeah, I don't even know if there were other coins at this time.
There was. Yeah, they've been around for a long time. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, I know a million times more than I do now, but I still don't know the. But then again, does anybody really know where money comes from? Did you ever read the book, the first Reacher book?
No, but I did read The Creature from Jekyll Island, which explains how
I'm looking over there. It's over there. It's been sitting there for 4.5 years. Before that, it was on my shelf for 8 years. I still haven't read it yet.
That's the thing about Bitcoiners. They become Bitcoiners because they understand how the dollar works. If most people understand how the dollar worked, they would wake up and be, hey, this is a scam. This is not right. And we're kind of used to it because the gold standard kind of got taken away in 1932. And then 1971, they decapped the dollar from gold because they confiscated gold in the 30s. But in 1971, it went off the standard. And ever since then, it's been going downhill. So Bitcoin's been going uphill. So if you value your wealth in dollars, things are going to get more expensive. If you value it in Bitcoin, things are going to get cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah. The first Reacher book is called The Killing Floor, and they did the series to it. And the premise of the book is Reacher's brother works for the Secret Service, finances, and they touch it in the series, but in the book they really, really explain. That was like my first eye-opening experience about money. We just have money. It's like trees. You don't think about trees; they're just always there. You're born with trees. But now I'm thinking about money, and the brother gives a speech about. He talks about, he said, 2/3 of all American $100 bills were outside of the United States, and most of them are counterfeit. And I don't know if this is true or not. I couldn't get confirmation, but according to the book, they said that 2/3 of all $100. He said that the country of Iran or Iraq, I forget what it was, they turned one of their printing presses that printed their money into making counterfeit. So it was a government venture to make counterfeit, and they kept it a secret.
Yeah, they have fake plates. Now they're printing Bitcoin, but it's not fake. They're actually mining Bitcoin in those countries because it's one of the ways to avoid all the constraints, all the laws that are in place to control
So
the
is
money.
it? So you heard this is true that a foreign country?
I heard it as well. Like I can't
Okay, so
verify it more
wonder
than
if
you,
you
but
heard
I've
that, and
heard
that's
that
was the
too.
inspiration for the book.
Yeah.
But he was talking about how one of the biggest things was the United States government was keeping that a secret, because if people knew that most of the $100 bills outside of the United States were counterfeit, it would devalue our money. And
Yeah.
then the other character in the book says, "So money is based on faith," and he goes, "More so than you would believe."
Yeah, since 1971, it's paper money. It's just on it's on what you believe.
Right. He says that. He goes, money is worth this because we believe it's worth. He goes, it's an illusion, and my job is to, to. This is Reacher's brother. Like Sherlock Holmes had the smarter older brother. Reacher's smarter older brother was like, my job is to defend the illusion, and that's why he got killed and blah blah blah. But it's if you like the Reacher show, read the first book. It really goes deep into how fiat money is a weird illusion that we just trick ourselves into believing. So that was my first step, and that was before I knew anything about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I've always been a cynic about everything.
And you can even fake gold. Like China has faked gold with tungsten. Tungsten has the same weight, as gold. So if you take a tungsten and you cover it with gold, you cannot detect unless you like drill into it that it's fake
Right.
gold.
And who's going to drill
You
into that
can't
coin?
fake Bitcoin. No one has ever successfully faked a
Oh,
Bitcoin.
Old Dirty Fatty says the Federal Reserve has too much power. It's funny. One of my friends calls me the Forrest Gump of comics, because anybody brings. I have a story about it. But working in New York, living in New York, you kind of have. But I was an electrician at the Federal Reserve for a while. Believe it or not, electrician.
Oh, wow.
So
Interesting.
I remember going to the Federal Reserve, and you get frisked by armed guards, and then you go through security, and then you open up your tool bag, and they go through all your tools and they inventory all your tools. But we were there for a couple of weeks, so we left our tool bags inside. You know what I mean? And then when we left, they made sure that it was. And then so I was just like, wow, I'm in the Federal Reserve. Piles of gold, things like that. Everything you've ever seen. And I was talking to the guard. They see us. Familiarity breeds contempt, kind of thing, or familiar. So we would talk and bullshit, and everything. And they told me that they were New York City police officers, but they transferred over to the Federal Reserve. I said, so do you work for the city? They said, no, we work for the Federal Reserve. So we are police officers for the Federal Reserve. And that's when I bought, because I was working, that's when I bought the book, The Jekyll Island, and I still embarrassingly haven't read it yet. But I learned, because I'm there, that the Federal Reserve is not federal.
It's not federal.
And it's a private bank. So I was just like, every day I'm getting frisked by guys with M16s.
It's a scam. It's a scam, and everyone's been hoodwinked, but it's so big that it works for they got
right. It's a private bank that has its own police force.
Yep.
Capital One doesn't have its own police force.
No, it's
so that's when I was like, this is pretty spooky.
It is.
And I said that to the guard, and he was just like, hey, it's a job. He basically transferred over, because it's not like he's dealing with muggers and people pooping their pants in the subway. It was just an
the more you understand how it's a scam, how they're actually stealing from the American people, from people everywhere, to be honest, because there's a Federal Reserve in every country that's not being bombed has a Federal Reserve.
Right.
And the more you understand, the more it's going to make you angry. And that's another reason to get into Bitcoin. You're like, okay, I'm taking their power away. I'm not using their currency anymore.
But it's one thing, the Federal Reserve, it's a bank, it's old gold, and you see all the Die Hard movies and stuff like that. But it's another thing to be frisked every day by a private bank armed guard with the power to arrest you. You know what I mean? What I mean? This is a government official with a license and you know what I mean? He's a police officer that only works and answers to a cartel of bankers. It was really eye-opening and strange. I don't know if you guys are getting how weirded out it was for me, but like at first I was just like, oh, they're cops. But then I'm like, no, they're cops that they don't answer to the mayor of New York. They don't answer to the president. They don't swear. Like the police officers just supposed to swear like to defend the Constitution kind of thing. what do the Federal Reserve police officers swear on? Like a book from Moloch or something like that? You know what I mean?
No idea. That's a good question. I'd love to
So
know.
it was just, these guys were good guys. They were just regular blue collar guys. You know what I mean? But push comes to shove.
And when you find out how in the book Creature from Jekyll Island, they show you how the bankers got together, and it was like they were hiding their identity. They met at a train stop. They had to come individually and hide their identity. They went to a separate wagon that they rented, and that was only attached to the train last minute, and it was a criminal operation from the get-go. It's just now the crime's been there our whole lives, so nobody questions it anymore.
Right. You keep seeing it on the internet. Name a scam that's so normalized you don't know it.
Yeah, and the Fed and the Federal Reserve
and the Fed and the IRS. Trump's today was a big kick in the pants for Trump supporters. I was just like, I don't want to get into it, but today I was in a bad mood because all the stuff like, oh
yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
And we'll end on that. I don't want to start getting into politics. I already pissed off enough people on the internet today.
That's good. A good place to end. In the Fed and the podcast.
When you launch a campaign, come back. We'll talk about it. We'll see.
That would be my pleasure. Thank you, John.
Yeah, this was a fun talk. It's fun to talk about something different every once in a while.
Awesome.
This seems to be my week of non-comic book talks.
Cool.
Guys in the chat, do you like when we talk about other stuff besides comics? What do you guys think? We got about 65 people watching, so that's pretty cool. And anything you want to say before we go?
Visit rattelcomic.com. imakecomics.com is the forward address to that. You can see samples of the art. I have a progress page where I show you where I'm at. There's 5 pages left to ink. My colorist has got 5 pages down. So probably by the end of the summer, maybe early August, the campaign will be out. I'll be out on Fund My Comics, and Geyser available to purchase in Bitcoin as well. So it's going to be interesting.
And so it sounds like your comics going to be pretty much done by the time you launch the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, all the lettering's done over black and white right now, even over some penciled pages. So I'm finishing the inking. The colorist is working, so I'll be doing some supplementary stuff and preparing the campaign, and maybe even writing issue number 2 as I prepare the campaign and stuff. Should be fun.
For those of you who are wondering, Renzo just messaged me. He's going to be finished with the art, he says, by Monday for my comic. So there you go. So then we just have a couple of little, how I do the fake ads. One of them I'm finalizing, and then coloring. The only problem is Daniel's father is getting open heart surgery this weekend, so that's the only hiccup. But I'm still ahead schedule. And then lettering takes like a week. I always do lettering last because I don't know exactly where we're going to put the word balloons because I'm always going to mess with the dialogue. So I want it all colored, rather than you have this little spot. Now I got to fit the dialogue in that spot. So thanks a lot, Old Dirty Fatty's happy. If the Old Dirty Fatty's happy, I'm happy.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you. It's clobber time is normally at 8:30. I got invited to do a pre-recorded cast with Clownfish. And when Clownfish asks you to do something, you say yes. So at 7:30, I'm going to pre-record him and a few other guests. When that's over, we'll do It's Clobbering Time. I can't promise that it'll start at 8:30, but I'm sure you guys can understand why I'm delaying, which is why I also did this earlier, so I could fit in Clownfish.
Appreciate it.
And thank you. And I appreciate you being so cool about it, about changing the time. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye, bitch.